still hanging over the Arizona Cardinals right now is how are they going to get through the first 6 weeks of the 2022 NFL season without DeAndre Hopkins? I'm going to bring up two names, if nothing else, but to disqualify both of these names from being signed by the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm taking your questions in the third segment. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. It's a live Friday, baby. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel that you are watching right now. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. Free and available on all platforms. Happy Mother's Day soon to all the mama bears out there. I'm going to tell you about Blue Nile here at the end of the first segment, but this is going to be a weird podcast. This is going to be weird. Just the disclaimer is this is going to be weird. It's going to all be centralized around the absence of DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games of the 2022 NFL season. There are two names, one name that's been floating around, and another one who happens to have a family member now on the Arizona Cardinals who may or may not be one of the best wide receivers we've seen in the last 10 years. May also be kind of a problem in the locker rooms with the coaches, etc. But I'm going to take 6 minutes, and I'm going to make an argument for and an argument against that player to join the Cardinals. So the third segment, I'll be taking your questions. Happy to do it. I'm really happy when everybody, interacts. I don't know, want this to be a family, man. Want it to be an absolute family. Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins out for the first 6 weeks of the 2022 NFL season. Do the Cardinals have enough on offense without their wide receiver one? It's to be determined. There's still plenty of time for Steve Keim to add a piece or two. Definitely on the defensive side of the ball, which is going to help the offense out, balance out a little bit. The defense has been the strength of this team for the majority of the last 2 seasons. And, that needs to change, I think. I mean, the defense staying pat, status quo, being a middle rung, if we're talking in fantasy football terms, like a defense 1 fringe, top 12, great. If they can withstand the rigors, add some veteran pieces, and stay in the top 12 or top, 13 of defensive rankings in the NFL, that's great. If the offense can take over the reins and become the focal point, the strength of this organization with Cliff Kingsbury at the helm. Because, say it with me, if the offense isn't the strength, why is Cliff Kingsbury the head coach? Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins out for the first 6 weeks. They acquired Hollywood Brown. They've got Rondale Moore, they've got A.J. Green, and they drafted Trey McBride. Re-signed James Conner. There's still some holes that need to be filled. They need to bring in an RB2, and then they need to bring in an offensive lineman or 2, and then they need to add a whole bunch of pieces to the defensive side. But this is going to be an offensive-centric show. There are 2 names that I'm going to bring up. One this segment, one next segment. Get your barf bags out because this is happening. And I'm going to make a case for both of these players to be a good fit for the Arizona Cardinals. And then I'm going to make a claim. I'm going to make an argument for why they would not be. And the latter is a lot easier than the former, so bear with me. Number 1, Dez Bryant. He wants to play with Kyler Murray. Okay? Dez Bryant hasn't really been relevant since 2017 or 2018. He had a stint against the Ravens, with the Ravens. He scored a couple touchdowns, played in a handful of games. Cool. There's one thing that we know about Dez Bryant. He's tall. He's large. He's large. And he's 6'2", okay? The dude had a monster year 5 or 6 years ago. I completely understand the long, the gap between relevancy and now. And I also know that he could help. As think of it this way. This is my argument for, okay? It's going to be very little against the cap. I mean, it might be a $2 million incentive-laden deal, 1 year, And he's shown that he's not a problem. Like in Dallas, everything's magnified. He has an ego. He's a wide receiver one, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. He came in, he played football, he caught a couple touchdown passes last year, and that was it. Now, why would he fit with the Cardinals? Because they need a body. They need they need a wide receiver. And a guy like him can be 40% of what AJ Green is now, 50%. Run 10 yards, turn around, catch the ball. You're bigger than DBs. Could be worse. Like, he's not going to be an issue in the locker room. He's not a cancer. He's 33 years old. He wants to play football. And he wants to play with Kyler Murray. And he wants to prove himself that he can still ball. Now, it was 2 years ago in Baltimore, sorry, and I knew that. He had 6 catches in 6 games, okay, and 11 targets, but it's also Lamar Jackson, and they also had a bunch of different players, and they ran the ball a whole bunch. Like, are you saying that if Dez Bryant came in and played in the first 5 or 6 games, was on the field 30% of the time in separate packages, with all of the, all the eyes going around Zach Ertz and Rondale Moore and Hollywood Brown, that he couldn't sneak away for a touchdown? Would you rather have Dez Bryant running routes or Antoine Wesley? Think about that before answering. Would you rather have Dez Bryant running routes more than Antoine Wesley? The answer is probably no, but it's close. It's close. And that's the argument for it. The argument against is the other 90% of the valid reasons. He hasn't been relevant in a long time. He's slow. He's going to take up a roster spot. And wanting to play with Kyler Murray isn't enough to get him on the roster. But I think, and Spliff Kingsbury, that's funny because it rhymes with Cliff. Spliff and Cliff, very clever. He says, relax, Alex, it's just 6 weeks. 6 weeks is make or break in the NFL, and he's the best receiver the Cardinals have. The numbers dropped precipitously when DeAndre Hopkins went out last year. Now, I don't think it's going to be replicated like that, yes, because they have Hollywood Brown, sure, but Hollywood Brown's not DeAndre Hopkins, regardless of how the history he has with Kyler Murray. So that's why I think it's a little bit more of an impactful situation than people want to believe right now. It's going to come very real, and the Cardinals need to stay ahead of it. I apologize for the next segment already, but I'm going to talk about it because it's fun and it's Friday and I'm live on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Antonio Brown. Should the Cardinals sign Antonio Brown, the cousin of Hollywood Brown? I'm going to talk about that next. First, it's Mother's Day on Sunday, man. If you don't know that already, you're welcome, and get your ass in gear. If you're looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing, BlueNile.com's got you covered. Not only do they have a wide array of choices, they have jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So whether mom prefers a statement piece or everyday subtle elegance, BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for every mom. Shop high-quality classic diamond earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, or gemstone pendant necklaces. This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off a $500 purchase. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On Plus. Every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop a stress-free and pleasurable experience for your mom and help her find her forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. For another version of insurance, BetOnline.net's got you covered. Your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs from Major League Baseball and this weekend's Run to the Roses as the Kentucky Derby is back. Damn, I thought, man, that year went by fast. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here on a live Friday edition. I'm getting weird today because I can. I have creative control over this podcast. And because we talk so much about the draft, we talk so much about everything, this is just like, it's been a weird offseason. Let's put it that way. The draft was weird. Trading for Hollywood Brown was out of the blue. Not signing any free agents was weird. DeAndre Hopkins, being a consummate pro and then, popping for PEDs was weird. It's just been a weird offseason. And I am talking more weirdly about Dez Bryant coming and signing with the Cardinals, which he shouldn't, but I made an argument for. And then now, Antonio Brown. So here's the thing. We remember the last picture in our mind about Antonio Brown doing shirtless jumping jacks in an end zone as he ran off the field in the middle of a game. Okay. I'm going to give you all of the negative reasons first why the Cardinals should not sign Antonio Brown with DeAndre Hopkins being out for the first 6 weeks. Okay. Where do I begin? How much time do I have? He is unpredictable. He's had a lot of off the field issues. That's putting it very lightly. There are some very serious allegations, things that he went through. Tom Brady loved him. He's one of his guys. So he ended up bringing him over to Tampa Bay after bringing him to New England for one game before he got suspended. Remember, in New England, he had 6 catches for 60-something yards and a touchdown in the one game he played with Tom Brady before coming over to Tampa Bay. So I know that in a very fragile ecosystem that the Cardinals find themselves in, Antonio Brown wouldn't be the best addition to that. Okay? He's an enigma. He's a mystery. He's an absolute mystery. He's very, he's one of the best interviews in the game. After games and press conferences, he's a funny dude. It's just a weird thing. And obviously, I don't know. I know the negative repercussions, the bad stuff that would come with him playing. But the positive side, he's one of the best receivers we've ever seen in the game. He's one of the best receivers we've ever seen in the game. And that should be enough. That should be enough. And I know the Cardinals have stayed away from problem players a lot, especially as of late. But you put Antonio Brown on the field, this offense automatically gets better. Automatically. Now, is he going to get enough touches? Is he going to get enough, is he going to get enough routes run? That's where it comes into play. Because if you're not happy with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians in sunny Tampa Bay with that offense, after winning a Super Bowl, it seems to be a recipe for disaster. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Drop your questions in the chat. I will be doing a Q&A. Ask me anything Cardinals and football related in the final segment. But I thought that it just, if nothing else, to just make this into one podcast instead of, sprinkling it throughout many different ones. Dez Bryant, why and why not in the first segment. Antonio Brown, same thing this segment. Obviously, the why not severely outweighs. This isn't clickbait, okay? This is a conversation. This is leave no possibility discussed, not discussed. In a vacuum, if Antonio Brown was a free agent and didn't have the off-the-field issues, I'd say sign him in a second, obviously. So if that were the case, you need to discuss and weigh the options of what if they took a flyer on him. Would this offense look better? Would this offense get better? The answer is yes for the first 6 weeks. And then I don't know what I wish you could sign, you could do a half-year contract. You sign him for 6 weeks, say thank you. But with how many 4 wide receiver sets Cliff runs, and I don't know if that's going to change this year because they drafted Trey McBride. I don't know if they're going to use Zach Ertz and or Trey McBride in wide receiver positions in 4 wideout sets, if they're going to run more 2 tight end sets, like I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like because Cliff has never really focused on the tight end through college, etc. So the fact that they have 2 now, it seems like there's a lot more cooks in the kitchen because both of the tight ends the Cardinals have can double as wide receivers. So Antonio Brown, like, I get it. Okay. Again, I'm not going to make a title for this podcast saying, ooh, should the Cardinals sign Antonio Brown? That's not what I'm going to do. This isn't for clickbait. This isn't to have a stupid debate. I think doing due diligence about every player that's possible for the Cardinals to sign is not an act of futility. And that's why I'm doing it. And before we get into the final segment of the Q&A, Dez Bryant or Antonio Brown. If the Cardinals had to sign one, who should they sign? It's not as easy as you think. It's not. Antonio Brown's still more talented. We've seen him more recently be more talented more recently than Dez Bryant's small stint in Baltimore. And we've also seen how that ended with Antonio Brown. And would you rather have a guy like Dez Bryant in your locker room instead of Antonio Brown, even though the talent level is not as high? Yuck. Like, that's a tough question to answer. Like, what if you have to answer that question? Like, I don't know which way to go, Dez Bryant or Antonio Brown. Let's just not answer it. I'd probably have to say Dez Bryant if it was one of the two. I'd probably have to say Dez Bryant if it was one of the two. It's safer. And he's still 6'2", and he can still run routes, turn around, and catch the ball. You're not going to need world-beating performances from him. But for the first 6 weeks, the Cardinals are going to have issues without DeAndre Hopkins. They are, because he's a top 5 receiver in the game, and he's not going to be on the field. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Drop your questions in the chat. I'm going to do a Q&A before we get out of here for the weekend. Yeah, man, this is one of the more fun segments, one of the more fun podcasts I've done because we're getting weird. I like getting weird. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will be back momentarily, but first, Built Bar. They're the best tasting protein bars on the planet. Like, I want people to remember what I say and go to Built.com and purchase these incredible morsels of chocolate-covered protein amazingness, and then reach out to me on Twitter, DM me, and tell me how great these things are, because they are. They've been around for a long time. They've been a sponsor of ours for a long time, and I love them. Like, this isn't just, read the copy and make people believe that you love them. I 100% love them. Little case in point. I can read this copy. I do it every time. Brendan Clean from Locked On Suns. You should follow him at Brendan Clean 14 for all your Suns information from now through the playoffs. I mean, they look like the championship. They look like the front runner to win the NBA Finals right now. We met with a Built Bar rep at a Starbucks right around the corner in Phoenix. He brought us a box of new flavors of Built Bar and some old ones. And he's like, here you go, guys. We're like, thank you so much. Brendan and I did a draft of Built Bars where it was, okay, do you want first or second and 2? Like playing at recess. He took first. So he took whatever flavor he wanted. I took the next 2, and we went back and forth until the box was out. Because we wanted to be fair, because we both wanted all of them. And that's what Built Bar is all about. 17 grams of protein, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar. It's not like 30 grams of sugar like candy bars are, even though these things taste like candy bars. They would win blind taste tests against candy bars. They've got you all the flavors you want: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate. Like, they're candy bar flavors that are protein bars that are good for you. Go to Built.com right now. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, final segment, Locked On Cardinals. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. You can also check me out on Thursdays on the Locked On NFL National Show with Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans. His Twitter's Tic Tac Titans. So I've talked Dez Bryant or Antonio Brown. Why not for both? And if you had to pick one, who would it be? Who would it be? Dez Bryant with a lesser talent capacity at this point, or Antonio Brown with a higher talent capacity at this point, but with all the off the field issues? Which, if the Cardinals had to sign one, if they had to, who would it be? I think I'd gear towards Dez Bryant, just to play it safe. Q&A, drop questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer these. Aaron, my boy, says, with D-Hop being out, would be a better idea to go and get a guard versus a wide receiver to give K1 the time he needs to use the weapons we already have. Yeah, it was Zion Johnson. And they should have traded up for him. Yes. Interior offensive line is still a need. They're going to, with the wide receiver, I said this before the draft. I said it for a month before the draft. The wide receiver is a need for the Cardinals, but it's not one of the most important needs. It's interior offensive line, it's pass rush, it's interior defensive line, and it's corner. Get the quarterback, stop the run, protect Kyler Murray. And the Cardinals did none of that in the first 2 rounds. They traded out their first pick, and then they drafted Trey McBride. Trey McBride's going to be good. I mean, he's the best pass-catching tight end. But, they still need a guard. I mean, they need a guard. They need at least another pass rusher. They need a nose tackle, interior defensive lineman, and they need a corner or 2. So, they are an incomplete product right now. They don't have 22 starters as of right now. Now, Jack Roberts, Dez is washed. What about Julio? So here's the thing. I was on the Julio Jones trade before they signed AJ Green back. I was like, bring back AJ and sign Julio Jones. Dude, obviously this was before they traded Hollywood Brown, before DeAndre Hopkins gets popped. This was way before. Unfortunately, right now, Julio Jones is going to want too much money. And I don't think the wide receiver room is too packed for Dez Bryant, but I think it's too packed for Julio Jones. Now, if Julio Jones wants 1 year, $5 million and wants to play with Kyler Murray, why the hell not? Because obviously Steve Keim has overcorrected again, and he's going offense. Why stop now? So I could definitely be talked into saying, again, still with Julio Jones, but it's got to be the money. The fact, if he can't get $8 or $9 million from somewhere else, it's Julio Jones still. He was out the majority of the year last year, and it was a run-firsty offense and everybody was hurt. You can't compare Ryan Tannehill to Kyler Murray. You can't do it. Do I think that Julio Jones would be, a focal point of this offense? Probably not. Do I think that Julio Jones is the third option? Let's get weird. Who cares? But it's going to come down to money for sure. If this was next year, and the salary cap balloon and the Cardinals are going to have a lot of cap space come next year, say, yeah, give him 2 year, $12 million right now. Why not? Because not only do the Cardinals have them, other teams don't. Miguel S., good question here. Will Fuller. Will Fuller is interesting, but Will Fuller, I always quote Matthew Berry, the fantasy football guru from the 4-Letter Network. Matthew Berry's thing, he says, if Will Fuller is healthy, you're starting him. Because he is he's going to go down, if he doesn't get another big deal, he's going to go down as one of the biggest what-ifs we've seen over the last decade draft-wise. He can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he balls the hell out. He's 3 catches, Randy Moss status, 3 catches, 125 and 2 touchdowns. Because he still can get behind any DB. If a guy like Deshaun Watson's throwing in the ball when he was. I don't know. Will Fuller's I think he's going to garner too much money. There's no way, because he's too young. There's no way that he's going to get a 1 year, $4 million deal. If you want to sign a $5 million deal, sign him. Who cares at this point? Honestly, the Cardinals have so many holes on defense that if you're going to magnify your offensive skill position players as much as you can, just do it. Just do it. I'm at the point now where it's screw it. We're 2 months into free agency and we're through the draft, and Steve Keim still hasn't addressed the 3 biggest needs on this roster in no particular order: run stopper, pass blocker, corner, I guess edge rusher. What, they drafted 2 defensive ends, one of whom is going to play edge, and he's the more questionable of the 2? That's not enough. You just lost Chandler Jones. Unless, and this has been the caveat I've said this entire time, unless they're going to move Isaiah Simmons outside to the edge rush position, and you're going to learn from your mistake by not moving Hassan Reddick outside quicker, I don't know what they're doing. If you are, and he's 6'3", 240, and he runs a sub 4.4, 540, and you're going to have him say, go see quarterback, hit quarterback, cool. I would be open. I'm in for them not adding another edge rusher at this point if they're going to move Isaiah Simmons into that role, because I think he's the perfect guy. He's a little bit like, and how hybrid-y the linebacker position is becoming and the pass rush position. Hassan Reddick is much smaller than Isaiah Simmons. I mean, obviously, on we're talking on a curve, an NFL curve. But if you're going to learn a year early from your Hassan Reddick mistake by moving Isaiah Simmons into a natural edge rush, pass rush position, I'm in. Boom, do it. And then go fill pass rush, or go fill run stopper, interior offensive line corner before the draft. Then you're set. But I still, talking about the wide receiver position specifically, yeah, Alan, so here's the thing. Alan Sherman, I don't see what's wrong with our receiving core. I still think it goes deep with the players we have. Understood. And DeAndre Hopkins isn't there, so it's going to take a step back. It's a de facto step back because he's a top 5 receiver in the league. We don't know the rapport that Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray are going to have yet. They haven't played together for 5 years. 18, 19, 20, 21. 22. 5 years. Did math on my hand. They haven't played together in a long time. And they're not playing against guys in secondaries who have to go to third period French on Monday. They're not playing Big 12 defenses. They're playing the 49ers twice a year. They're playing Jalen Ramsey twice a year. They're playing Tampa Bay this year. They're playing, Oakland and the Chargers. Vegas and the Chargers. And the Broncos. These defenses are going to be tough, and the Cardinals need wide receiver help. So, at this point, the reason why I said Dez Bryant, and I know neither he nor Antonio Brown, but I still think that if they can get somebody at a good contractual price for the salary cap, that it would behoove them to sign another wide receiver just to have power in numbers. Steve Keim signs a whole bunch of offensive linemen for depth. Why not do it for wide receiver core? If this is going to be Kyler Murray's show, give him as many tools as possible. Give him as many wide receivers as possible. And I'm going to leave you with that. That was a fun conversation. Thanks for joining me. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Go to BlueNile.com. It's Mother's Day on Sunday. If you forgot, you're welcome. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals.